Okay, everyone, I made a portfolio video a week or two ago, and then after kind of thinking through it and also realizing that there were going to be some issues with some things, I decided to make some changes. So hopefully, this actually makes it much more simple for you. So I want to give an introduction to what the portfolio is, um, and so I'll just kind of reintroduce the portfolio and then hopefully help clarify some of those changes. So first of all, you throughout this course will turn in four main papers: a personal learning profile, a cognitive approaches paper, a sociocultural approaches paper, and an equity approaches paper. The first three you should have already completed. And what you're turning in is you're turning in a draft of these. It's not a final version, but it should be a good draft. It shouldn't be just garbage that you throw out. But also, our first drafts tend to be not great, and that's okay. So I want you to work at it, but still recognize that it's a first draft. So each of these will be a first draft. I'm grading these as complete, incomplete. You turned it in, you responded to the prompts, or you didn't. And so that's how those are being graded. And what will happen for the portfolio is you're going to make revisions of these. Now, originally what we had is you're going to turn in, like for example, there was these 6 pieces for the portfolio. I'll talk about them in a minute. But you're going to actually include your first draft and then the final draft so I could see the comments with it. I realized based on how we turned things in and how I gave comments to some people, that was going to be a pain in the butt. So we're not going to do that. I'm going to change this idea. We're no longer kind of nixing this idea. And what we're going to do is just to streamline this better, make it much more simple, is you are still going to make revisions, but it's just going to be a final draft. It's not going to be, you're not going to put in the original version and the final draft. You're just going to put in the final draft for each of these 6 pieces. So the personal learning profile, that one asks you to kind of think about your own experiences. So I didn't leave a lot of comments for this one. I will go back and kind of just review, see if there's anything else, any other comments that I want to make on it. But for the most part, I want you to just, now that you've come all the way through the course, I want you to go back to the original prompt and sort of rewrite it. You can build off of what you already wrote, but this should be a substantial revision, probably more substantial than some of the other papers. The context site description is a new-ish document. It's actually similar to your context prospectus, the proposal that you made, saying here's the context that I'm going to do my observations in. And it should be based on the observations that you did in each of the 3 places. So you're going to basically describe the site. Again, you can see the information in the actual document, in the actual instructions. And then you have the 3 papers. Again, I'm just asking you for the portfolio to turn in your final draft. This also does assume that you turned in a first draft. You have to turn in a first draft in order to turn in the final draft, and you have to get feedback from me in order to turn in the final draft. Okay, so there has to be that step in between. So if you haven't turned in a first draft of any of these yet, you really need to get working on that, because I need to be able to give you feedback in order for you to turn in the final draft. So 3, 5, and 3, 4, 5, those should be fairly straightforward. Again, it's final draft of something that you've already turned in. And then the 6th paper is a new one, which is just kind of a reflection. Again, make sure you read those prompts carefully. I want you to address all of those prompts. It's, again, a 1 to 2 page paper, single spaced. That's the other thing. Is a few of you, not very many, but a few of you made these double spaced. I'd prefer that they're single spaced. I know a lot of your other classes probably do double spaced. And a lot of that had to do with printing out. A lot of professors would print out and like write their annotations and feedback on the actual paper. Since I'm doing this all in a digital space, I'm not worried about the double space. I don't need that extra space. I'd actually prefer to read it single space. So make sure it's single space. And the idea is this is in one single document. So what I would do for your portfolio is maybe even start to create a portfolio document, whether that's in Word or Google, and copy and paste what you've already done into there, and then start making revisions. I would suggest revising soon your cognitive approaches paper and your sociocultural approaches paper so that they're not waiting until the very, very end. You probably won't want to do your personal learning profile revision until after we've gotten most of the way through the equity approaches paper. But as soon as we finish the equity approaches paper, you can start to revise everything else. Or start to work on everything else. That would be fine, because then you're only waiting for feedback on me on the equity approaches paper. So just keep that in mind, because I don't want everything to pile up. If you try to do all of this in the very last week of classes, or during finals week, and this is due by Wednesday of finals week, it's going to be a lot of work. And so I want you to start working on these revisions sooner rather than later. So that's the brief overview. These 6 pieces, instead of adding a first draft and the final draft, let's just do the final draft for the 4 papers you've already written. And then, of course, 2 and 6, number 2 and number 6 papers in here are new or newish papers. And please put them all into one single document that you submit for the final.